With its absurd proportions and seemingly microscopic wheelbase, mechanics are left scratching their heads, wondering how this is even street legal. It looks like a classic Japanese hatchback that got trapped in a trash compactor, yet it somehow still drives down the highway. What is this hilariously shrunken machine? This is a heavily customized, shortened Honda Z600. Originally an iconic 1970s microcar designed for crowded Tokyo streets, a mad fabricator has chopped the chassis in half and welded it back together to create a cartoonish, real-life Hot Wheels car. Retaining its quirky, original pop art styling but losing the rear seats entirely, its tiny two-cylinder engine now has to push even less weight. Built purely for smiles and absolute confusion, this bizarre modification is a brilliant mistake. Spotted parked by the roadside, this bizarre shape looks like a movie prop from a retro sci-fi film that accidentally escaped onto public roads. With its completely rounded fuselage and strange pod-like layout, it looks more prepared for a lunar landing than a highway commute. What is this alien machine? This is the 1969 Fascination prototype by Highway Aircraft Corporation. Answering the UFO mystery, this incredible machine was heavily inspired by aerospace engineering and Buckminster Fuller's Dymaxion, built to be the ultimate car of the future. It utilized a bizarre three-point stance and was originally planned to be powered by a revolutionary, propeller-driven engine before settling on a conventional four-cylinder. Never reaching mass production, this wildly ambitious concept remains an absolute unicorn of automotive history. With its absurdly low stance and futuristic wedge shape, mechanics and drivers alike are left scratching their heads, wondering how this elongated box is even street legal. It looks less like a civilian vehicle and more like a sci-fi shuttlecraft that escaped onto public highways. What is this alien machine? This is the Vixen 21TD. Explaining its extraterrestrial proportions, this is actually an ultra-aerodynamic luxury motorhome specifically designed to be low enough to fit inside a standard residential garage. Powered by a rear-mounted BMW turbo diesel engine, it was built in a wind tunnel to achieve an incredible 30 miles per gallon on the highway. Unfortunately, its massive development costs and high price tag made it a complete financial disaster, ending production quickly. Squatting low to the pavement, most people dismiss this wild machine as a cheap fiberglass body kit bolted onto a regular donor car. It looks like a $1 million Le Mans hypercar, but it actually arrives at your house in wooden crates as a giant DIY puzzle. What exactly is this street-legal track weapon? This is the Ultima RS. Unlocking the twist of its origin, this British supercar is an extreme kit car engineered to accept a supercharged Chevrolet V8, allowing it to produce an insane 1 to 200 horsepower. Featuring a massive carbon fiber rear wing and a functional Le Mans-inspired roof scoop, it weighs less than a standard compact hatchback. Capable of outrunning actual Koenigseggs and Bugattis on a racetrack, this engineering marvel is the ultimate giant killer. Spotted rolling through dark streets, this bizarre three-wheeled machine looks like a menacing movie prop from a gothic sci-fi film that accidentally escaped onto public roads. With its vintage styling and mysterious sidecar, most people assume it is a fragile, ancient relic from the 1930s. What exactly is this brooding street villain? This is a custom-rigged Triumph Bonneville T100. Unlocking the mystery of its haunting appearance, this is actually a thoroughly modern British twin-cylinder motorcycle masquerading as a classic, famously utilized as Uncle Fester's terrifying ride in a hit streaming series. The real magic lies in its seamlessly integrated sidecar that turns a standard retro cruiser into a heavy, dramatic chariot. Built purely for the screen, This dark setup is a brilliantly executed piece of modern nostalgia. At first glance, everyone assumes this is just another standard German sports car, modified with a loud aftermarket exhaust. But beneath the familiar, bug-eyed styling hides a massive, hypercar-slaying secret engineered for top speed. What is this undercover asphalt monster? This is the Porsche 911-997 Turbo 9FF F97 A-Max. Revealing the twist, this isn't a factory Porsche at all, but a heavily re-engineered beast by the speed-obsessed tuning house 9FF. Its heavily reinforced twin-turbo flat-six engine can push out mind-bending horsepower numbers that rival modern Bugattis, requiring serious aerodynamic upgrades to keep it planted on the ground. Because 9FF builds are incredibly expensive and notoriously difficult to spot, finding one at a local car show makes it an absolute unicorn. Found sitting quietly among modern traffic, this brutalist, boxy silhouette isn't just a piece of boring 1980s scrap metal. While uninformed onlookers might mistake it for an old Datsun or Mazda, it is actually a nearly indestructible piece of automotive history that drift enthusiasts are actively hunting for. What exactly is this brick-shaped survivor? This is the Volvo 900 series wagon. Behind its unassuming, refrigerator-like styling lies a legendary rear-wheel drive chassis powered by the famous red block engine, known to survive hundreds of thousands of miles of sheer abuse. Swedish engineers essentially designed a literal tank for suburban families, making it absurdly safe but also surprisingly capable of handling massive turbocharger upgrades. Overlooked for decades as a boring grocery getter, this rolling brick is now recognized as a misunderstood masterpiece. It looks like a cheap, forgotten minivan from the 1990s, but it actually hides the exact same rally-winning mechanicals as a legendary street racer. Most people would ignore its awkward, asymmetrical shape, completely unaware of the turbocharged violence lurking under the hood. What exactly is this undercover grocery getter? This is the Mitsubishi RVR. Unlocking the secret of its strange design, this quirky crossover shares a rugged all-wheel drive drivetrain and turbocharged engine with the iconic Lancer Evolution, secretly making it a minivan that can sprint through dirt trails. It featured a bizarre single sliding door on the passenger side, leaving the driver's side completely solid for much-needed structural rigidity. Too strange for global mass appeal and killed by shifting consumer tastes, this rally-bred family hauler was a complete financial disaster but an undeniable engineering triumph. Found blending into the shadows of a dark suburban street, this generic silhouette looks like a completely normal family hauler, but it's hiding a guilty secret. Disappearing seamlessly into a sea of traffic, it becomes the ultimate stealth vehicle for vanishing into the night. What exactly is this fleeing phantom? This is the 2019 Volkswagen Atlas. Unlocking the mystery of its stealthy escape, this massive three-row SUV utilizes a deceptively quiet V6 engine and a totally unremarkable exterior to vanish in plain sight. Featuring a bold utilitarian grille and sharp shoulder lines, it was designed specifically for the North American market to swallow up space without drawing any attention. Far from a rare exotic, this heavy commuter is a highly successful daily driver that easily gets lost in the crowd. It looks like a basic $20,000 delivery workhorse, but this seemingly boring commercial box was actually piloted by multi-millionaire Formula One royalty. Stripped of any racing pedigree, it hides in plain sight among plumbers and electricians while secretly carrying the world's fastest drivers. What exactly is this deceptive cargo hauler? This is the 2020 Peugeot Expert 2.0. The reason behind its unexpected A-list driver roster is its widespread availability as an incredibly reliable, under-the-radar rental across Europe. Powered by a highly efficient, torque-heavy turbo diesel engine, it is designed for unmatched utility and loading capacity rather than track-shredding lap times. While it won't be winning the Monaco Grand Prix anytime soon, this highly capable commercial van is an absolute champion of logistics. With its absurd lifted proportions and massive all-terrain tires, mechanics are left scratching their heads, wondering how this rolling fortress is even street legal. It looks like it belongs in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, completely dwarfing normal traffic with its intimidating armored stance. What is this street monster? This is a heavily modified 2010 Ford E-Series. Explaining its doomsday appearance, the standard commercial chassis has been radically transformed with a custom heavy-duty 4x4 conversion and reinforced suspension. Usually utilized as a humble plumbing or passenger van, this specific rig boasts heavy steel bumpers and massive ground clearance to conquer literally any terrain. Transformed from a boring fleet vehicle into a hardcore overland survivor, it stands today as a misunderstood masterpiece of off-grid capability. At first glance, everyone assumes this aggressive wedge is a super rare, stripped-down Ferrari prototype. But beneath the stunning Italian styling hides a massive secret that makes it completely unique from any mainstream exotic. What is this track-ready imposter? This is the 2017 Dallara Stradale. Paying off its deceptive hypercar looks, this is actually the very first road car built entirely by legendary race chassis manufacturer Dallara, bypassing traditional luxury brands completely. Tipping the scales at an insanely light 1,185 pounds, it lacks doors entirely and features an extreme carbon fiber aero package that generates almost double its own weight in downforce. Limited to just 600 units worldwide, this uncompromising street-legal race car is an absolute unicorn. Spotted in normal traffic, this bizarre shape looks like a corrugated metal box that accidentally escaped a military base onto public roads. With its absurd doorstop proportions and flat windshield, it leaves modern drivers completely baffled. What exactly is this weird street anomaly? This is the 1973 Volkswagen Thing, also known as the Type 181. Unlocking the mystery of its military appearance, it was originally designed for the West German Army and built on the humble underpinnings of the VW Beetle, making it extremely cheap to maintain. Thanks to its modular doors and folding windshield, it became a massive cult classic among surfers and off-roaders before failing strict US safety standards. Today, a lowered, modified version like this is a legendary cult survivor. Sitting disembodied and completely stripped down, this severed steel shell looks like scrap waiting for the crusher. Yet the unique shape of its drip rail and roofline holds the DNA to one of the most beloved workhorses in history. What exactly is this metal ghost? This is the 1959 Ford F100 small window cab. Explaining its rugged utilitarian shape, this specific generation introduced the modern, squared-off style-side design that integrated the cab and bed for the very first time. Its distinct wraparound windshield and minimalist dash were pure, functional perfection, meant for farms, not highways. Usually found rusted out in fields or chopped up for custom hot rods, an intact, small window cab like this is an absolute goldmine for restorers. Spotted in passing, this strange-looking station wagon looks like a retro, futuristic spaceship that accidentally landed in modern traffic. With its reversed C-pillars and bizarre roofline, it leaves pedestrians thoroughly confused by its funky silhouette. What exactly is this vintage family hauler? This is the 1960 Rambler Cross Country. Breaking away from the massive, gas-guzzling land yachts of the era, this clever machine offered compact efficiency, combined with wildly space-age styling details like a roll-down tailgate window and dramatic tail fins. It was the ultimate quirky family road trip vehicle before minivans took over the world. Largely ignored by muscle car collectors and left to rot over the decades, seeing one on the road today is a truly brilliant blast from the past. Elevated on a pole like a weird automotive trophy, this tiny machine looks like a shrunken, cartoonish toy car. At first glance, people assume it's just a cheap fiberglass novelty sign meant to draw in customers. What is this little fella suspended in the air? This is the 1960 NSU Prince III. Unlocking the mystery of its tiny footprint, it was actually powered by an extremely clever rear-mounted two-cylinder engine derived from NSU's World Championship-winning motorcycles. Despite having less than 30 horsepower, its incredibly lightweight made it a surprisingly nimble menace on tight European roads. Driven to extinction by the rise of modern hatchbacks, this pint-sized warrior is a fascinating mechanical survivor. At first glance, everyone assumes this retro-styled roadster is a multi-million-dollar vintage classic cruising the sunny coastal roads. But beneath the swooping 1930s fenders and two-tone paint hides a massive, highly reliable secret. So, what is this beautiful imposter? This is the Hurton Grand Albaicin, unveiling the truth behind its vintage illusion. This Spanish coach-built creation is actually constructed entirely on the chassis of a modern Mazda MX-5 Miata. It perfectly blends the dramatic, sweeping wheel arches of a classic touring car with the bulletproof reliability and playful handling of a modern Japanese sports car. Handcrafted for those who want old-world glamour without the mechanical headaches, this striking convertible is a brilliant engineering anomaly. Another file closed. Which of today's finds was a masterpiece, and which was a mistake? Debate it in the comments. If you love cars that defy explanation, make sure to subscribe. See you on the next discovery.